MLB Pitcher Nail Down. I'm Jason Gilbo, JGilbo11. With me is Nick Rodriguez at NRodriguezDFS. Taking a look at some pitching on today's slate, and there's a lot of options to look at, and there's even some decent value to take a look at. It kind of helps pair with those Coors bats that you're going to be wanting to get in. Jumping right into things, you're looking at Detroit and Pittsburgh. 8.5 over/under here. It's basically a pick 'em. Pittsburgh small favorites. Neither of these guys on my radar too much, but really, it's a pretty easy fade for me.
Yeah, same with me. Shane Green, we all saw last year, gave up a ton of runs, especially to left-handed bats. So this is a game I'm actually looking to stack. No pitchers here in this one that I'm looking at for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And then obviously you have Ryan Vogelson making the spot start there, but he's a guy who's been roughed up more times than not. So next game, we're looking at San Diego and Detroit. Philly, small favorite, 7.5 over/under here. Two of the bad offenses in the league. But we're looking at Jared Akoff here, and he's a guy you and I both like, a pretty strong SP2 guy on those multi-pitcher sites. And even on FanDuel, you're looking at him being a decent GPP guy because you can basically load up on bats. He's just 6,600, so definitely one of my favorite, points per dollar plays tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I'm right with you there. Ecoff looks really good. He has a 24.1% strikeout rate, so we know he's going to get those strikeouts, especially against those San Diego bats that have been struggling all year. So he's definitely a guy to look at. And I don't know how I feel about Rhea. 19.6% strikeout rate. The upside is not there, but we all know Philly's offense isn't that great either, so he might be another GPP starting pitcher 2 option to look at in this one.
Yeah, especially because you're looking at this game, two bad offenses, two pitchers that are capable of kind of getting the job done, more so Ecoff. I think that Ray call is a nice pivot off of him if you're looking to be really different tonight. But I think overall, Ecoff, I find him hard to fade in cash games on DraftKings. FanDuel just a GPP just because there's one starting pitcher slot.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I actually made a FanDuel lineup last night, like at 12 a.m. I gotta look at it again, but I made a pretty sweet lineup with Ecoff. You had some course hitters, a guy like Goldschmidt, so definitely a guy to look at on FanDuel.
Yeah, you plug him in, you got basically 3,600 left over at each position, so that's pretty nice there.
Exactly.
Looking at Atlanta and Washington, this one, Washington heavy favorites with a 7.5 over/under. Obviously, Steven Strasburg comes in as a popular option tonight, and I guess the one downside is he does carry a pretty high price tag. He is one of the heavier strikeout guys, but he does face an Atlanta team that doesn't strike out a ton. He wasn't sharp in that opening debut against Atlanta, but he did work out of some jams. You're basically kind of paying up for safety here more than anything because you're looking at a pretty easy win for him with Whistler on the other side, who there's no way I'm touching against even this Nationals offense that's been a little bit overrated here to start the season.
Yeah, they struggled last night against Chachin, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. So I wouldn't be surprised if they struggled, but I'm not looking at Whistler. He's a good young pitcher, but not tonight, especially against Strasburg and the way Vegas has them as heavy favorites. I think Strasburg is the safest cash play on tonight's slate.
Yep, I definitely agree with you there. He had 11.2 swinging strike rate last season. Strikeouts were up. He was absolutely dominant in the second half. I can understand you kind of want a little more out of your pitchers for 11K. You kind of want them dialing up those strikeouts, but really you pay up for safety here. I do think you can go cheaper in GPPs just because you can get maybe more of a punch-out rate for guys like Ventura or Rodon, who we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. But FanDuel, you're looking for the safest play. I think Strasburg is your guy.
Yep. With you there. New York and Toronto, over/under of 8.5. That's pretty easy for me. Pretty easy fade for guys like Pineda. Sorry, who's pitching for?
It's Pineda for New York, and then I want to say J.A. Happ.
Yeah, just blacked
Jay,
zoned out for a little bit. But yeah, those are guys that I'm fading tonight. No use for them on a full slate.
I know it might sound crazy, but Pineda and Hap might be decent tournament plays. I don't know. Maybe throw a quarter arcade for one of them in there.
I mean, if you look, I mean, Toronto's been striking out quite a bit to start the season. Pineda a little bit tougher on right-handed bats. I mean, if he keeps the home runs down, it's not bad. I was expecting a ton of runs last night from both sides. Um, it was only, a shallow game as far as runs scored. So um, I don't think it's a bad option. And if Hap can kind of control those right-handed bats for the Yankees, but it is Rogers Center, so I do tend to be a little scared there.
No, definitely. The only positive for Pineda is he has owned Toronto in the past couple of years. I want to say they're hitting a 240 batting average against him and over 100 at bats, so it's a nice sample size. Definitely one I'm fading, but if you want to throw a quarter in it, it's only a quarter, why not?
Looking at the next game here, we have Cleveland and Tampa. This is a game that I'm kind of looking at. As far as a pivot from Strasburg, I like Carlos Carrasco here. One, he's similar price tag, 600 more on DK. FanDuel, he's a little bit cheaper. He's about $1,000 cheaper. I like the upside more as far as Carrasco goes. I think Strasburg kind of the easy guy to get a win. But if you're looking at the matchup, the Rays strike out quite a bit more, 21% rate over 2015. Carrasco, a nice strikeout guy as well. You look at last year, I mean, 19 of 30 starts, he had 7 or more strikeouts. So it's definitely there, but he does have kind of his blow-up moments. And you can't forget, I mean, he almost threw a no-hitter against this Rays team last season.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I like Carrasco a lot. The problem, if you're looking for consistency between Strasburg and Carrasco, I think Strasburg is a tiny bit more consistent, but they're both inconsistent at the same time. So I would throw Carrasco in a tournament, especially with Tampa Bay, that they strike out a lot, like you mentioned. And they didn't look too good with the bats until the ninth inning yesterday. So I think Carrasco is a great play tonight.
Yeah, and then you also were before the show looking at Drew Smiley as well, more so on FanDuel, just at a cheaper price tag. I mean, those Indians bats aren't too scary, and you look at Matt Moore last night dominated. You look at these Indians bats, a lot of them are switch hitters or lefties. I think Smiley's a perfect guy who can come in and get the job done. I think the wins, it's a toss-up for as far as wins go, but really, I mean, I think it's a nice tournament play.
Exactly, especially that a lot of the Indians batters, guys like Kippins, they hit better against right-handed pitchers, with the exception of Lindor. So I think it's an upgraded matchup for the Rays southpaws. Like we saw more yesterday, like you mentioned, and today Smiley gets another nice matchup.
Yeah, and then, Smiley, a decent strikeout rate, 23.5%, 3.55 SIERA though. So, I mean, Smiley, a decent arm. You obviously have Tropicana backing you on both sides, decent park factors there. So, I think this is going to be another low-scoring game to target. I do like both sides.
Yep, I'm with you there.
Next one, Baltimore and Boston. We can pretty much gloss right through there. I'm not looking at either guys. Joe Kelly looking to get hammered. Ubaldo Jimenez, not touching him as well. So I think that one I'm fading. You with me?
Yeah, I'm with you there. Jimenez can be inconsistent. Kelly tends to get hit more often than the average pitcher, so staying away from that game.
Yep, looking to load up on offense. Cincinnati and Chicago, another heavy favorite game. Chicago and John Lackey favored heavily. An 8 over/under. Lackey struggled in his debut with the Cubs, was against the Diamondbacks team in Chase Field. You probably rostered him that night because there was no other options to look at. But on a slate like tonight, I don't mind him. You're looking at a Cincinnati team with a pretty low run total. You're looking for a lot of runs to come from that Cubbies side. I'm certainly going to be looking to stack Chicago. John Lackey, an interesting play. The price tag's not too bad. 8,300 there on DK. Doesn't have quite the upside of a guy like Giordano Ventura or Carlos Rodon, but seems a little bit safer than Mike Leake, although I do like Mike Leake as well tonight as an SP2.
Yeah, I think he's safer because Vegas has him heavily favored. The wind is blowing in at 9 miles per hour from right center, which is also helped the pitchers quite a bit. If we know how windy Chicago can be, and I think Lackey's going to impress the Chicago fans.
And he's a guy like I mean, obviously he's coming off a start where he gave up 6 runs, but he's a guy who's usually limited damage in the past. This Reds team is kind of coming out better than expected, but overall they're not an intimidating offense whatsoever.
Exactly. I think he's a great starting pitcher 2 option. I don't know if I touch him on FanDuel though.
Yep, I definitely agree. Um, Kansas City and Houston, Yordano Ventura, Scott Feldman. Yordano Ventura, they're kind of an interesting play tonight as far as GPPs go. He can dial up those strikeouts, swinging strike rate over 10% last year, 22.5% strikeout rate. The walks are the only thing that concerns me with Ventura. Obviously, you saw that with the Twins when he gave up 6 walks in 5 innings. But this Houston team, they don't walk a ton. They also have a pretty heavy strikeout rate. And, a lot of these bats are on the right-handed side. A lot of them on the left are those big power or boomer bust bats. So I think, Ventura is certainly worth a look. And I think he's going to be backed by some offense just because Scott Feldman, not very good. And, I mean, looking at Vegas, it's kind of deceitful just that they're knocking off that Royals offense for not doing much tonight.
Yeah, Feldman is actually an interesting pitcher. For some reason, he's had success against the Royals other than Lorenzo Cain. Not doesn't have a high strikeout rate. Only at I lost it here. Give me 1 second at 13.8%. So he's not going to strike out a lot of guys, especially facing the Royals. So they're going to put the ball in play, which will favor Ventura if they get some runs in early. And like you mentioned, 21.4% strikeout rate is nice, especially against a Houston team that was top 5 in strikeouts last year.
Yeah, I mean, I like Ventura a lot. I think he's kind of a sneaky play tonight. Not quite cash game worthy, but looking for some upside. I think he's the guy.
Definitely.
We got Milwaukee and St. Louis, Chicago and Minnesota, 8-10 on the road there. And the Twins, I mean, the Twins have been absolutely awful on offense. A 30% strikeout rate so far to start this season. And Roden, I mean, that kind of has to put him in play as far as GPPs go just because of that strikeout rate. And this guy is a guy who can miss some bats, a 10.1% swing strike rate last year. You look at the Twins offense, they do have some power on that right side, but they also have a ton of strikeout upside for opposing pitchers. So, I mean, definitely a boomer bust play tonight because I do see guys like possibly Miguel Sano and Dozier maybe doing some damage just because they have off southpaws in the past. But Roden, tremendous strikeout upside tonight.
Definitely. I'm still not sure how I feel about Roden. The Twins killed left-handed pitchers last year. You mentioned Dozier and Sano, who are a couple. The upside is there. Strikeouts are there. They're 0-7 to start the year, 0-6, I believe. So not scoring a lot of runs. So Roden can be a nice GPP play.
Yeah, I like him a lot, and I think he's going to get backed by some decent offense. Phil Hughes, not the best right-hander, should get some nice runs from that White Sox team, and then obviously target field. It's not a tremendous pitcher's park, but it is a decent one. So Roden does have that in his favor.
Exactly. I guess you're going Roden today.
I'll have some shares. I mean, I'm going to look at him, especially if I compare him up with a cheaper arm and fit some big bats in, and hopefully he throws a nice quality start. So he only walked 1 batter the last game against Oakland. That was nice to see after his struggles last year.
Yeah, especially with how patient Oakland usually is with their bats.
Yeah, definitely. Next game, Milwaukee, St. Louis. St. Louis are small favorites there. 7.5 over under. Mike Leake, interesting SP2 option. Kind of a cheaper arm that you can take a look at. He is priced around guys like Eckhoff and Ventura, Lackey, so it kind of puts him over the map as far as guys that are around him. But an interesting play because he has a decent matchup against Milwaukee in a friendly pitcher's park.
Yeah, the 16.9K percentage might lean me towards other guys because the upside's not quite as there, but does have the matchup. And Vegas seems to like St. Louis quite a bit. Not like they like Chicago and Lackey, but I think he's a nice tournament starting pitcher 2 option tonight.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. And As far as Chase Anderson goes, I do like him as a pitcher. I don't think on tonight's slate he's really worth a look. I think in the future we'll probably maybe talk about him a little bit.
He did have a good start last game, scoring 42 fantasy points on FanDuel. He pitched 5 innings, 5 Ks, 0 walks. So he did have a good outing, but we saw St. Louis score 10 runs the other night. So this is probably a fade for me tonight, but we'll definitely keep an eye on him for the future, like you mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously the next game here coming in at Coors, a pitcher's worst nightmare. Fade for me. I think we can basically skip right over this one.
Coors is so intimidating for pitchers.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way. If you're new to DFS, this is where you look for offense. This is where you stay away from pitchers. At times, there are pitchers that come in and do well, but you don't really bank on that happening too often.
Chatwood pitched a nice game last night. Was it
He was
Chatwood or Samardzija? Sorry, Samardzija.
Samardzija had a solid. I was
Yeah,
surprised. I mean,
me
he
too.
struggled with lefties, but yeah, Samardzija had a solid outing.
I was impressed. I got to give it to him.
Last game of the night is Dodgers and Diamondbacks. This is one that I think is actually going to be pretty sneaky for offense because Ruby De La Rosa really struggles against left-handed pitch or left-handed batters. And obviously the Dodgers have a ton of lefties that can really get to him. And then you're looking at that Diamondbacks offense as well with all those right-handers going up against Wood. For me, both these pitchers are out. I don't really like any of them.
I'm surprised this game's only at a 7.5 total.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I agree. I was expecting maybe 8. I don't think it would quite push 8.5 as far as just being in Dodger Stadium at night there. But yeah, I'm surprised too. I think there's quite a few decent options. I mean, you were talking Goldschmidt earlier. I like him as far as GPPs going. Those Dodgers bats against Ruby De La Rosa. I mean, I want a good amount of them.
Exactly. I'm just still a little shocked. Maybe Alex Wood. I don't know. I didn't like him earlier, but this game total had me a little confused.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So really, you're looking at Strasburg, Carrasco is kind of your top price options. Ventura, Rodon, great GPP guys, and then Lackey and Eichhoff kind of your safe SP2s. So
Yes, and a little leak as well.
yep, little leak. That's gonna wrap things up here at the Pitcher Nail Down. Check out dailyfantasycafe.com for all the great tools and content.